We have plenty to discuss here in today's video, including some NHL trade rumors on a handful of NHL teams, including the New York Rangers, the Minnesota Wild, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Edmonton Oilers, Vancouver Canucks, and the Dallas Stars. We have a big update as well from the NHL waiver wire. We have update from ESPN regarding the Olympic send-off event that was supposed to replace the All-Star game this spring. We'll discuss that, plus Peter Deboer looking to get back into NHL coaching circles, several injury updates, and more coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have plenty of news items and some trade talk to take a look at here this evening. We do have an update as well, which is, I guess we'll see if the NHL puts out an official release here soon, but ESPN and Emily Kaplan is reporting tonight that the NHL is canceling their event that was supposed to be like the Olympic send-off event that was going to replace the All-Star game at UBS Arena, the home of the New York Islanders, right before the Olympic break. Now, we knew that there wasn't going to be a traditional All-Star game. That was canceled, and that there was supposed to be some sort of event. Now, I had heard whispers about this a while back, but I haven't seen any reporter or the league officially kind of make mention of this. But yeah, that event is not taking place, and we're going to return to a traditional All-Star game in 2027. Of course, it's not an Olympic year. Now, 2028 will probably be different again because, well, at least it could be, because there will be the World Cup. So I'm not sure how the league is going to handle that, but yeah, no event at UBS Arena right before the NHL players head over to the 2026 Winter Olympics in Italy. News from the NHL waiver wire today. We had Flames defenseman Muriel on waivers yesterday. I thought maybe there was a chance he'd get picked up, but he did not. He, in fact, did clear and can now be reassigned to the AHL's Calgary Wranglers, which I suspect may have already been done here by the Flames organization. Now, we get a variety of NHL updates as well. When it comes to injuries and players coming back, that type of stuff. Corey Perry making his NHL debut tonight for the Los Angeles Kings. Of course, Perry, the longtime veteran, got injured in the preseason, has not made his Kings debut as of yet. So it's going to be a little weird to see him in a Kings uniform, but yeah, obviously a longtime Duck, and then of course being with the Oilers recently, with all the battles the Kings and Oilers have had in the playoffs last few years, it's certainly interesting to see how things will go for him in Los Angeles. So that's happening tonight. He is back. Anze Kopitar, who was been injured for a while, but they didn't officially put him on IR just yet. That's happened now to open up the roster spot for Perry. Edmonton Oilers are going to be without forward Kasperi Kapanen for what sounds like a significant period of time as well. He will be missing several weeks of action. So we'll see what happened. Oilers were in Ottawa tonight. Connor McDavid finally got his first goal of the season, which is surprising it took this long, but it happened. Finally, he's got one on the board, especially after McDavid made comments saying that he wanted to have more of a shooting mentality and kind of, we saw him have a really high goal total a couple of years back, and he wanted to try to get back to that. The scoring was almost more fun than setting up goals, even though he's had like 100 assists and, obviously a dominant player in the league and whatnot. But Edmonton and Ottawa, two teams both out of the gate a little bit slow in the All-Canadian matchup tonight. Oilers ended up taking that game in overtime, so both teams get points, but the Oilers got a I don't know if I want to call it fortunate. It was a legit penalty, but Timmy Stützle took a penalty for Ottawa in overtime. And with like 1 or 2 seconds left on it, Jake Wallman gets a shot through and beats Linus Ullmark. He was going right for Ullmark's head. He kind of ducked, tried to get his glove up, but he had already taken 2 shots in the last little bit there off the mask. Don't know if he really wanted a third one, but kind of went right over his head and just under the bar in the middle of the Sens net for the victory. We also had some updates from the Sabres. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has been sent down to the American Hockey League for a conditioning assignment, so they're obviously hopeful that he's going to be close to returning. If he can get a couple of assignments down in American Hockey League go well, he can make the comeback here soon. Zach Jones has also been sent back to the American Hockey League as well. Speaking of Ottawa, they did recall Ollie Lycksell after sending down Arthur Kaliev yesterday. So Lycksell came back up and was in the lineup for tonight's game as well. Montreal has made some moves as well on their roster. Owen Beck has been sent down to the American Hockey League, and they've recalled Joshua Waugh and defenseman Mark Del Gaizo. So we know Joshua Waugh is a player we've talked about in the early part of the season after he was cut and sent to the minors. That, a lot of people thought last year that it was kind of his, last, not last, but it was an opportunity wasted to make a full-time move to the NHL. Didn't quite take advantage of opportunities that were given to him. And then this year to camp again gets cut. So a lot of discussion from Montreal media was his time in Montreal is probably coming to an end. And it very well could be time for a change of scenery for him to have a real better shot at trying to make an NHL career for himself. And at this point, while this could be his last shot, it's really hard to say. But Montreal does have a few injuries with Doc and Laine out. Obviously, they weren't, in love with Beck's play enough to keep him up that they decided to give another guy a chance here. So, could this be the, final opportunity that comes for Waugh if he can put together some consistent games and, maybe get a few points and contribute, and maybe he has a chance to stick around, especially with some injuries right now. But we will see. It could be an interesting time in his career, at least in Montreal, where we've talked about whether or not he will be there for much longer. Seattle, they dropped a game tonight to the Capitals. They also had recalled Ben Myers. Mason Marchment was out of the lineup tonight, considered day-to-day. Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Chris Tanev might be looking at possibly missing some time. We'll have to wait and see. He did get injured in tonight's game against the Devils, and he did not return. Obviously concerned that he could be out, but we'll have to wait for further updates from the Leafs on that front. I know the Leafs had a second period meltdown where the Devils scored 3 goals in fairly quick succession, and ultimately Jack Hughes had a hat trick and kind of wasn't really having anybody kind of slow him down tonight. So I know there's a lot of Leaf fans unhappy with the effort in tonight's game, but Leafs, like the Panthers, like the Sens, like the Lightning, all kind of having slower starts to the year. Teams like Montreal and Detroit's had good starts, but the bulk of the division is not exactly on fire, so we'll have to wait and see how things kind of start to level out. It's early enough that a 2 or 3 game swing can make a huge difference right now. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock into those teams being at the top, and I wouldn't put a lot of stock in the teams at the bottom. I think it could change in a hurry, but interesting nonetheless that the teams that are, a little bit less likely to be counted on being playoff teams are the ones that are hot to start the year, and the teams that have been in the playoffs more frequently, are the teams that are slowing things down here, not having great starts. I know Montreal was a playoff team last year, but ultimately, a lot of people were not banking on them for making it again this year. Like, there was a lot of analysts that said they wouldn't get back in this year, that they might take a step back. I didn't, on the other hand. I said they would make it, but Detroit is my bigger surprise. I'm not surprised by Montreal at all. Detroit does surprise me some, so I'll be curious to see if they can sustain that or not. Now, could we also have a game this week of the Quebec Nordiques against the Hartford Whalers? And no, I'm not lost on a time machine or anything like that. Not on a time warp. It's not the 80s haven't called or anything like that nature. But we are going to see some old school jerseys back. The Avalanche revealed today that they finally have their new thirds in order. And it, of course, pays homage to the Quebec Nordique history that goes along with that franchise. And, of course, we know that the Carolina Hurricanes already have their historical third jerseys that are, in homage to their team that became the Hurricanes, the Hartford Whalers. So on Thursday night, we're going to have Avalanche versus Hurricanes, and they are expected to both wear those alternate jerseys so that we'll have the Nordiques against the Whalers. I know for many of you, if you're not old enough to remember watching hockey when they were actually in the league, maybe it won't mean a lot to you, but at the end of the day, for somebody, if you're at least in your 30s or 40s, you must have at least some memories of that or older, and it's going to be fun to see. I know it's not the same. It's not the same teams. It's not the old players, but they are a couple of jerseys that I always really liked, and I'm happy to see those teams, kind kind of acknowledge their history, if you will, and use those in gameplay. So it should be fun. A game I'll want to watch on Thursday night for sure. Some updates on TSN Insider Trading. A few things they looked at. One being the longtime NHL coach Pete Deboer. Would love to make an NHL return. He's been in the league for 18 consecutive years. He's still under contract with the Dallas Stars for the current season, so it's not like he needs the money. He's getting paid very well, and of course he is on the staff for Team Canada's Olympic team, so it's not like he doesn't have anything to do right now either. So he's obviously doing some scouting and some other work for Team Canada to prepare for that event, and like I said, he's still getting paid from Dallas, and obviously, but he wants to be behind an NHL bench, according to TSN Insiders here, that, whether the thing is that we don't really have a clear cut, one or two coaches or anything that's really, I don't think it's fair to put anybody super like on a hot seat that's, really close to being let go. But when we get to that point, and it could happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks, it's kind of hard to say. By the 20-25 game mark, if there's a team that's, expected to be in the playoffs and they are not doing well, you could see a knee-jerk reaction, just like the Oilers when they brought in Knoblauch to replace Woodcroft. It had nothing to do with Woodcroft being a bad coach or anything like that. They just didn't feel like they had time to waste. So, Deboer seems to be pretty open to a variety of situations as well. He could very well be picky. Like I said, he's got tons of experience. He's still getting paid. He made lots of money. He could be as picky as he wants to be. But the belief from TSN is that he'd be open to a variety of jobs. So, we'll definitely have to have a wait-and-see approach. But he is looking to get back into the NHL this year. And considering the success that he's had, like I said, if there's the right team that's not meeting that expectation, that has big goals this year, I can see them maybe turning to him as a mid-season replacement. But we'll have to wait and see as well. On to the rumors. We've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Let's start with the future of Artemi Panarin and the Big Apple, New York Rangers. We know the Rangers are, I think it's pretty fair to say, far from a guarantee to be a playoff team. He's in the final year of his contract, which has been a great free agent signing for the Rangers for the most part. But we're at a spot now that they have to decide what's best. They had already gone to him in the offseason before training camp and asked him about extending, and that they'd like to see him take an Anze Kopitar type of deal, maybe extend him for a couple of years at a bit of a discount. Obviously go from making 10, 11 million, maybe down to that 6, 7, 8 range. And it was an absolute no from his agent that they were not interested in taking a discount and doing a short extension like that. Obviously, at Panarin's current age and production level, they feel, obviously, that they can still hit a home run and get a fairly lucrative contract, good amount of term, and that they want to try to do that. So it doesn't sound like that's likely to come with the Rangers. I know Molly Walker of the New York Post was reporting that she said that she does not expect him to give any kind of discount to the Rangers. And we've heard other insiders say that unless he gives them a discount, then it's unlikely that they're going to want to sign him for similar money that he's making now. It just doesn't make sense from their cap perspective and for the long-term future of the team, especially if they're not really contending. Now, I could understand if you think that, he's your ticket to get to like Stanley Cup, and if you lose them, that you're not going to be able to do that. But they're not at that stage, and I'm not sure that they're at a point where they're even a guaranteed playoff team. So largely, a lot of this is going to depend on how the team does. But basically, if the Rangers are not trending towards being a playoff team, it's very, very likely that they will explore trading him. Now, I know he's got protection. They'll have to work with him to some degree, but it's going to be something that they want to do. I know Frank Saravalli said he wouldn't be surprised at all if they go to him and they figure out a trade. And a lot of people are pointing towards Minnesota. If Minnesota's in a playoff spot and they want to add and they want to have a shot at maybe bringing in him on a free agent contract, now they might prove to be difficult as well. After that massive Kaprizov extension, if he's not giving the Rangers a discount, he probably won't give them one, and they may not be able to do that. But the Wild are a team, according to some insiders, that are, will be very interested if he becomes available, as long as they're in the mix. If they're under performing, then it probably doesn't make sense. But we'll see where that goes. When it comes to the Flyers, I know we've heard a lot about Owen Tippett here lately. and his future. Elliot Friedman was reporting today that the Flyers are not out there actively shopping Owen Tippett. This is not a case where they're like, okay, we don't like this player anymore. We don't know about the contract or the fit. It's not that at all. The Flyers are actually out there shopping to improve their blue line. They're not happy with their decor, and they're trying to find ways to make it better. And when they're having these trade conversations with other teams, Owen Tippett's name is coming up a lot, which is why he's in the rumor mill. Usually, a lot of these rumors come from other teams that are talking trade, and then they'll release information like, oh yeah, when we talked to the Flyers, they were willing to do this or that. And that's usually how a lot of rumors come about. And Tippett's name is getting interest from other teams. And like Elliot said, like they're definitely not opposed to moving him. They're just not out there actively shopping him. But if they do trade him, the most likely outcome will be that it's for a top 4 defenseman. Now, we had mentioned before about Bo Byram maybe being a guy that they've had interest in. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. We've heard Owen Power might not be happy in Buffalo, so I'm not sure what the Sabres do. Do they maybe consider moving him and try to extend Byram? I know Byram and the Sabres had a somewhat contentious negotiation in the summer, and the contract they settled on to me was like, okay, you can kind of take a wait-and-see approach. We don't feel like we're overpaying, and if you still, things work out and you want to be here and you play better, then, or not better, but, at least as good, because I think he had a decent year with the Sabres last year. He played a lot, his minutes were up, especially, during some injury times, and I thought he was pretty decent for them, but, I was a little surprised that they settled where they did. But not quite clear what the Sabres are going to do because there's so many question marks over that team right now. That we don't know where things are heading. So there could be other defensemen, but the Flyers are looking for D. Byram is a name that's been mentioned. Tippett's a name that's been brought up. But again, they're not shopping him per se. Frank Seravalli was also talking with the Edmonton Oilers, saying he believes that they kind of have a pecking order here to go ahead and become cap compliant as they get some bodies back health-wise. So like Zach Hyman will be back soon. Matthias Janmark, Regula. They just get back Jake Wallman, played his first game tonight. So obviously they're going to have to, juggle the roster and be creative with how they do things. And the belief is from Seravalli that a couple of the first moves they'll make is probably sending Isaac Howard to the minors. He doesn't need waivers. He can go down, free up some space. Curtis Lazar will probably be a cap victim here as well, whether he's put on waivers or traded, something to move that money. And then, of course, you also have the possibility that Matthias Janmark himself could be traded when he's ready to come back. There is belief that there are some teams that have talked to the Oilers and may be willing to take that contract on now. For some, it's going to be a little bit of a issue because he's got a second year on it. It's just under $1.5 million, but it's in a second year, which for some teams will be a problem. So there's that as well. Not to mention that, Ty Emberson might be another name that Frank Seravalli believes could be a cap victim here as well. So look for Howard to go down, Lazar to get moved, and then Janmark and Emberson very well could be your main players that are traded to free up some space as these guys get healthy. You never know, though, if they run into anything else that could be problematic. From an injury perspective, it could change what they decide to end up doing. Vancouver is a team to watch as well. Lots of updates as well. I heard lots of people talk about some of the injuries, most notably Philip Hedl. I know listening to Craig Button talk to Rick Dollywall, it doesn't sound good at all. Craig Button was saying like he kind of wonders if maybe Philip Hedl should maybe even consider packing it in and worry more about his quality of life, because if this concussion is anywhere as bad as some of the ones he's had before, it could be a long road to recovery here. And, there's definitely going to be people that are around him that are just might be having those conversations. There's been enough blows to the head now that you have to think that it could be career ending. Like, it's hard to say that for certainty, but between Button and Dollywall, they were certainly talking about the fact that it could be. Now, the Canucks were already kind of in the market for help at center ice, and then between this and then Teddy Bluger also getting hurt, it's kind of really put an emphasis on them needing some help in that direction. Now, according to what we're hearing is that the Canucks management between Alvin and Rutherford are scouring the market for centers, but there's not a lot of centers that are, a 1C, 2C available. A lot of the Cs that are going to be available are guys that are 4s and 5s. So it's probably going to end up being a depth guy that maybe they pick up that has a chance to play up higher in the lineup. Unless something else materializes, they're kind of in a pickle here, so don't be surprised if you see the Canucks make a move for a centerman here soon. Frank Saravalli also was making some interesting comments on Jason Robertson. Again, another player that a lot of places and outlets are watching closely. The Dallas Stars forward is a pending restricted free agent, so because of the fact that he's RFA, it's a little bit less of an urgent need, but clearly the Dallas Stars do have interest to bring him back. We know that, but all this time has been gone by since the end of the season and over the summer into this early part of the season, and still no extension. We haven't heard a whole lot about talks taking place. We haven't heard a whole lot about anything being imminent. Now, maybe they're just doing a good job of keeping it quiet too. Doesn't mean that it's that they're not having any talks or things are going poorly, but definitely a big decision is going to have to be made. And like I said, they could push the decision here to the summer. But, the Dallas Stars are a team with Stanley Cup aspirations. If they feel like there's a big move to be made, if they don't think it's going to work out on a long-term deal with Robertson, you can't say he won't be traded, that's for sure. Can't say that he will be either. Like I said, they can kind of defer this decision to the offseason if they really, really want to. It's not like they're risking losing the player, but if they get to the offseason and they get to a point where they've made other moves or anything that it's going to be pretty clear that they can't sign them, then they're going to maybe lose some leverage. So it's, do they look at making a move in season that brings in a replacement that fits their cap situation better, that maybe allows a little bit of a longer term outlook here that could solve that. So again, hard to say, lack of clarity on Robertson's part, but just according to Saravalli, which is no surprise here, a very interesting scenario that we need to monitor, because that could be a very big name on the move should something come about like that. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.